What is up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingNews.com and welcome back to another one of our previews. Well, it is the main event of the weekend. It is Saturday, January 25th, race 13 on the card at Gulfstream Park. It is the Pegasus World Cup. It's going to be a hell of a race. We have got 12 entries this year, going a mile and an eighth. $3 million, the purse here for the Pegasus World Cup. It's going to be fun. Like I said, field of 12. Like I said, got it up on the screen now. Let's go through them one by one. I'll give you who I like to win at the end. All right, let's go to the number one, Mixto, to get things started. And this is a horse that does look to be a little bit outclassed in this one. Of course, he did earn his way into this spot, right? He won the Pacific Classic 3 races back. You win a race like that, you're going to find yourself in races like the Breeders' Cup Classic, where he was 11th, beaten 19, the Native Diver, where he lost, and now the Pegasus World Cup. So I don't like him one bit. I thought he was a terrible winner of the Pacific Classic. It was not a great race this year. I don't think he's got any chance to come over here and win. Total toss for me. The number two is Saudi Crown. He's far from a total toss. So this horse, number one, looks to be loose on the lead. You look at how this race is drawn up. I do not see a lot of other speed in this one, and that is a little bit concerning for everybody else in this race, because Saudi Crown can run and run fast. He's coming off of a win at Fairgrounds in the Tenacious Stakes, where he was a gate-to-wire winner. He ran in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile and did absolutely nothing, just a disaster from start to finish. But 3 races back, was able to go gate-to-wire at Ellis Park and win an ungraded stakes race as well. So it's kind of been interesting since his return from Maidan. He did nothing in the Dubai World Cup, was finished 12th, but he did almost win the Saudi Cup. He was third in that one, beaten 3/4 of a length last year as well. So, you kind of look when he doesn't run well, it is kind of a disaster, like Breeders' Cup Classic 2 years ago, 10th, beaten 12 3/4. When he doesn't get out to an easy lead, it does kind of go the opposite way for him. So that's why I think he's scary here. Yes, it's a mile and an eighth. Yes, he's probably most effective at a mile. But you look at this and go, boy, there's no other speed signed on. Who's going to go get him? Who's going to go out there with him? Maybe Skippy Longstocking might be one, but who else? I don't know. Don't see it really. So that does make him a little bit scary in this spot today. The number 3 is Newgrange. This horse doesn't look real scary anymore. There was a time he was in pretty good form, running pretty well. It hasn't been good since. The Santa Anita Handicap 2 races back, he was 6, beaten 11. The San Diego last time out, he was 5th, beaten 10. So, I don't know. I kind of, now he's with D'Angelo. We'll kind of see what happens. I need to see a race out of him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I can't support him in this spot today. He just doesn't look to be the same horse he once was. The number 4 is Wide Barrio. Speaking of just maybe not being the same horse he once was, how about this? He's just kind of the great mystery is what I'd like to call him. There was absolutely nothing wrong with him as a 3-year-old. He ran great. He won the Florida Derby, Holy Bull races like that. He got up against Suffolk Company. He just got beat, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you're just not quite as good, as one might think, and you just get beat, right? Well, then all of a sudden he transfers over to Dutro, and he's unbelievable. He wins the Whitney by 6 1/4. In just a blazing effort. Then he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic in an unbelievable effort. And you're like, wow, Dutro got the most out of him. Then things go south quickly. He goes over to the Saudi Cup and does no running at all, 10th, beaten 15. And then he goes to the Met Mile next. He was 5th, beaten 10 1/4, I should say. And you're like, wow, maybe Dutro just got him right for 2 races and now he's off again. Well, then all of a sudden he shows back up with Saffie Joseph, who he was originally with for the all of his career until those starts there with Dutro. He runs well in an allowance race, and he should have. I mean, there was nobody in that race. And then last time out he tries the Mr. Prospector and he gets beat. Bad trip, got way behind, got beat as a 2-5 favorite. But both those races, he just didn't compare to those 2 times he ran the Breeders' Cup Classic and the Whitney. They're just complete standouts to me. So I'm skeptical of him in the spot. He's got to get back, maybe not to that level completely, but he's got to get back to where, he can run a 120, 125 time for him. And I just don't see it happening. So I can't support the number 5 Wide Barrio here. I'm not going to sit here and be shocked. He does like Gulfstream, and we have seen it from him, but I don't want to take him at what I think will be a pretty short price. So I'm not going to go with Wide Barrio in this one. So we'll see if he can, I don't know, maybe he can round back in form here for Safi. The number 5 is Krupe. Consistent horse, hit the board type horse. We've kind of seen it from him in the past. He hit the board in the Whitney, finished second. He hit the board in the Brooklyn, finished second. He was third in the Woodward, fifth in the Clark last time out. Didn't do much running at all. You have to go back to the Suburban on June 8th at Saratoga before you see his last win. He beat a pretty sketchy field, I should say, that day. But you do go back to the Pegasus World Cup last year. This horse was third, only beaten 4 3/4. So that's him in a nutshell. Never really threatens to win, but can run up and hit the board. And that's kind of where I see him in this field as well. The number 6 is Stronghold. I thought he had a pretty good kind of quote unquote prep race last time out in the 7 furlong Malibu at Santa Anita on the day after Christmas. He was second, beating a length and a quarter. But, you kind of go through second beaten 3 3/4 in the Pennsylvania Derby, second beaten 2.5 in the Indiana Derby, Kentucky Derby. He was all right, 7th, but, never really threatened. So ever since the Santa Anita Derby win, which doesn't look quite as good as when the day he won it because he beat Imagination and that horse really never came back to do anything. It's just like, I think he's kind of like Krupe in a way, except he's going to sit a little bit better trip, but I just don't see him kicking on with any kind of a chance. So I'm against the number 6 Stronghold in this spot, although I do think he's a nice little horse. I just don't know that he's good enough to win a race of this level. The number 7 is Steel Sunshine. Speaking of a horse I don't think is good enough to win at this level, it's him. He's kind of tried tougher company before, and it's been hit or miss. He did win the Gulfstream Park Mile last year by a nose. He's hit the board in some pretty decent races, but at the end of the day, I do not think this is a grade 1 winning type of horse. At least, with any kind of consistency, maybe he'll jump up and win one, but I just don't think he's one you really want to play here. I couldn't get behind him either. Let's keep going. The number 8 is Vitality, and no interest here for me either. Did win a stakes at Fort Erie 4 races back. That was the Ontario bred stakes, the Prince of Wales. Other races on the dirt haven't been all that good since. I just have no interest in this horse whatsoever. The number 9 is Mystic Dan. Speaking of having no interest in a horse whatsoever, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of interest in the Kentucky Derby winner, Mystic Dan. Here's what we know. He does have the capability to show up and run a massive, and I mean a massive race. We saw it in the Kentucky Derby. He was fantastic in winning by a nose there. We saw it in the Southwest. He showed up and ran a fantastic race and won by 8 lengths. The problem is some of these other races just weren't great. He has 3 wins and 10 starts, and his 3 wins are all really, really strong efforts. Really inconsistent type of horse. After that Kentucky Derby, he's had 3 straight losses. He didn't run bad in the Preakness. He got beat second, but only beaten, 2 1/4. Sees the Gray got out in front, just couldn't catch him that day. Belmont Stakes nowhere to be found. Malibu Stakes nowhere to be found. He's nowhere to be found on my tickets. I just can't support him here. The number 10 is Skippy Longstocking. Guys, he's just another one. I love this horse, but just not in races like this, right? It just feels like, Charlestown Classic. Yeah, let's go for it. Challenger or the Oakland Handicap, races like that. Yeah, let's back him. But when he gets up against the really good horses, he just can't get it done. Even the Woodward, which wasn't that great of a race, you just had to kind of beat Tapit Trice. He couldn't do it. He got second in that one. The Whitney, he was nowhere to be found. He's looked good coming into the Pegasus World Cup a couple times. The Pegasus World Cup 2 years ago, I thought he was going to show up and really run a nice race. He didn't. The Pegasus World Cup last year, he didn't even finish. I just can't get behind him in this spot. I love Skippy Longstocking. I think he's a fun horse. He's not for me in this kind of spot. So I'm going to skip on Skippy. The number 11 is Locked, and this is one I'm not going to skip on. He's just been super good in his last 2 starts. So if you forgot about Locked as a 2-year-old, he broke his maiden at Saratoga and at second asking. He won the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, and then he was kind of a fast closing third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, beaten by Fierceness, who we know when he runs his race, forget about it. You're not going to beat him unless you're Sierra Leone on Breeders' Cup Classic Day. And he got beat by Muth, who was a very good horse at that time as well, and he was closing fast on Muth. So I was pretty jacked about him. He gets hurt. It's 351 days from the Breeders' Cup to when we see him again. He misses everything that has to do with the Derby and the Derby Trail. Shows back up in an allowance at Belmont at the Big A and just destroys him. I mean, destroys him, which he should have. Then he goes the Cigar Mile last time out, stretching out to a mile, and he kind of just mowed him down again. He was facing a horse named Mulligan, who was a pretty damn good horse, pretty good at that distance, and he was just kind of passed him like it was no problem. He beat Post Time in that race as well, another pretty nice horse. So I thought the Cigar Mile was sharp. And here's the deal. 7 furlongs when he returned, 1 mile in that Cigar Mile. Now we're going a mile and an eighth. This horse is bred to be better going longer. I like him in this spot quite a bit. I think he's going to be very tough to beat in this one. And then finally, we're going to have a filly in the race, and that's kind of fun. The number 12 is Power Squeeze. Well, the draw didn't do the filly any favors, did it? Not a great draw, for Power Squeeze here. Last time out was at Gulfstream Park and lost in a race for females by a neck in an ungraded stakes there going 1 mile, the Rampart Stakes. I'm not really sure why we're doing this. I do think going a mile and an eighth will be good for her. Obviously, we've kind of seen her when she went a mile and a quarter in Alabama. She nearly won that race and looked pretty good doing it. She's won the Gulfstream Park Oaks right here at a mile and 16th, but this is too tough. I don't really know why they're doing it. I would be kind of shocked if she makes much of an impact in this one. This is just one I cannot back in this spot. All right. Look, like this race, I feel like sometimes is, or most of the time is, it kind of feels like a 2-horse race to me. It kind of feels like Saudi Crown versus Locked in this spot. Cox versus Pletcher, Speed versus a horse coming from out of it a little bit. That's just kind of how I view this one. Can Saudi Crown hold on going a mile and an eighth, or will Locked come and get him? I think that's where it's at. I know there's White Barrio in this race, but I haven't seen enough from him lately to think that he can do it. So I'm going to go the number 11 Locked. I just feel like Saudi Crown on a mile and an eighth, I think that's when he does become just a bit vulnerable. If it was a mile, I think he's a lock in this race the way it sets up. I think he's going to be pretty tough to catch in this race anyway, but I think the number 11 Locked can do it. I think they're going to have to get this horse out of the gate early, get him into some kind of positioning early in this race, and just kind of stock the pace and go for there. So I'm going to go the number 11 Locked to win this year's running of the Pegasus World Cup. All right, that'll do it for a preview of the Pegasus World Cup live Saturday, January 25th from Gulfstream Park. That'll be race 13 on the card. Thanks, everybody, for watching this video. Hit that like button if you liked it. Hit subscribe. You really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, good luck if you are betting Gulfstream Park on Saturday.